Okay, so you guys are back. Welcome back. So I think today we're going to talk about the B team, or all the bad or the wrong tools. Everyone's always asking about what brush is that? What pen is that? I don't know if that's just something people say or do you really mean it. And you've heard enough about my Raphael and my Hunt 102, which most people use, but not everybody. I've heard about Jalot, which I still am curious about, just because I've heard their like the Hunt is really stiff. So I wanted to try the Jalot nibs just to see if it's more like soft, more flexible. Might be easier on your hands. I just haven't tried it yet. No reason whatsoever. Just haven't. So today we're gonna talk about all the support team, the lesser used, but definitely are handy for different effects and handy for different occasions. I have, so you can, people throw away brushes and nibs when they're no longer like sharp or crisp anymore, or I absolutely do not throw anything away. For example, I have, and I marked it red, I have a box of Hunt 102s that I've like used to where it's like dull. It's not as sharp anymore, but I don't throw it away. I literally do not throw away my nibs until it snaps and breaks. So I use the daylights out of every single one of them if I find like a good one. So I save it, put it in a box that I mark is like the older, more dull, ink crusted nibs. And this holder is an old one that I got from the Kubert School, that I ordered when I was still at Wildstorm, so years and years ago. It's aluminum, it's light. It is, I believe, probably like a lead holder. It's one of those where you just kind of unscrew it to kind of loosen that, and you insert the nib in. Again, this is one of my favorite features about these kinds of holders. You can flip it to keep your nib tip protected if you're traveling. So, little side note. So this is one of the older, more dull nibs, and I have just a pencil grip holder just to because these little things, after a while on your fingers, these little things, kind of a pain on your little finger. I think all or most artists or inkers or pencilers probably have like a little callus right there on the finger where we rest our equipment or our pens. Don't giggle at some of the words, you guys. I know you are. So so I have this. It also makes it a little bit of like a softer grip and a thicker grip too, so you can kind of try to keep your hands or your grip a little bit lighter. So yes, first of the all-star B team, the dull nib that I don't throw away. Those are great for flexibility because you've pretty much worn down, it's soft. And the risk that you take with that is that it becomes, just expect that it could snap at any time. So you can use it for like, you can still use it for, thin lines, and you can really just put a lot of weight on it. But when you do that, just know that it might snap on you, so just be careful. So for anything where you still want to use your nib for the thick lines, So you can almost use it more like a brush. A lot of flexibility. So that is one of the wrong tools that happens to be the right tool in the right occasion. So it's also kind of fun to play with. And the other is, again, this is an old Raphael that I've used, and it's pretty beat up, so I don't mind, like, you know, just being pretty harsh with it. And if you want to, you can use it and trim it and use it for different effects, dry effects and such. And the reason, and I keep, like I said, and you can tell, like, when I do this, you can see that's not a sharp tip anymore. So I have, like, trimmed it, because if you've had it for a while, the hair will get all, like, weird and, you know, like frizzled up, whatever the term is. Yep, I just wet with saliva just out of habit. That's how I keep the point on my brushes, and just let it dry that way. But this one is not. I mean, I use it for touch-ups or for filling large areas, or if you want to play around and play with effects, like like old nibs are great because you can do different, you know, you can, like, for some reason it does very well with, like, dry brush effects. So you can totally put, like, some weight on it, and you don't have to worry about messing up your perfect, fresh, refined, brand new sharp brush. So don't throw anything away, you guys. You can still use it, and it allows you to play around. Like I said, one of the things, because it's so dry, it's literally a dry brush. The hair is so frizzy, frazzled, and dry that you will get, you know, pretty much a natural dry brush on it, on its own. Normally, if you have, like, a nice, fresh, new brush, you literally have to wait for, you put ink on your brush. This is me, anyway. You put ink on your brush, and you walk away, you let the ink semi-dry on your brush. That's when you can really achieve, like, the dry brush effect. But with an older brush, you don't even see, I'm dipping. So I just dipped. I'm gonna risk spilling this, and dipped in fresh ink, and do the side, you get your dry brush. So thank you for the dryness of all the little hair on this brush, that you just naturally get your dry brush. And I'm going kind of fast, but if you go slower, you see there's still plenty of ink. So you can still control, like, your dry brush by the speed. And for me, the dry brush is, I get a better dry brush by going to the sideways. So, sideways, do. Okay, so that is your wonderful, junky old brush that you don't throw away, and you can save for different things, for different effects. And you can, you know, do all your imperfect brush stuff. You can beat it up, it doesn't matter. You can do, like, you can do this, and you can get, like, the split brush effect, and you're not going to be worried about ruining a perfectly good brush. And sometimes that's the effect that you want. So you can do that. You can jam it down, no worries. So that's the number 2 of, stop giggling, that's the number 2 of your B-Team tools. And of course, you save one for ink and one for white too, so you don't get like the gray. You just have, keep it separated. Keep it separated. And so, let's see. And you've seen this. You guys have seen the toothbrush. And I have one for the white and one for inks. So because you can clean it as much as you want, you'll still get like a lot of ink that's gonna be stuck on there. So in order to not like get the gray, so you can get your crisp white and crisp black, have separate ones. One for black, one for white. It's another thing you don't throw away, and not so much like junky tools, but just miscellaneous different things that you can play around with. This is kind of the fun part of inking, is you can have, you can get creative with the tools. You have your sponge. This is hard right now, but you can, once you wet it, it's going to be, soft and more flexible and more pliable, so you can do textured effects with it. And you don't, if you don't necessarily need to, but of course keep the ink side, and I have the other side for white, so you can do different effects with it. Once again, and I always have a paper towel to kind of check the amount of ink I have on there. Sometimes I just need it a little drier, especially if it's a sponge. You might need to dab off a little ink, and you get like different effects. You can roll, you get different textures, and you can go over and rotate for different looks. And you've seen like this in, like, for example, like hair texture. You can do nice hair, and then you can come in with your pen, do like a cornrow thing. Just assist with texture. Or you can do like, I don't know, like a brick texture. Brick texture, which introduces yet another side to it. I hardly use Frisket, just because, like, especially the liquid one, because it always leaves weird stains on my paper, so I don't really like that. I don't love it. And usually I kind of just, when I start working, I just go. I don't always pre-plan, like putting on Frisket and letting it dry if I'm gonna do an effect, which is also why I use brush. If I'm just inking, I can fill in stuff and just complete as I go, and not necessarily have to wait. So the sponge is also good for, like, if you want to do like a little brick texture too, you can do. Oh dear. And then you can use your, you get a little texture. Brick or rock or whatever you want to do. It's a lot of fun to play around. So there's a little cornrow here, there's brick, same tool, and you can come in and use your pen to assist. Oh yeah, there's my other tool. So the masking Post-it, you can take it all the way. You need to mask it, and then, yep, that's my masking tool, guys. You can go lighter if you want, lighting, and actually you want to leave the mask on when you do that. So there you go. If you want to go light down, there's a little brick, so there's texture. And So that's another tool. And you can play with different types of sponges. They'll give you a different effect. And you can like drag your brush for smoke too. Yep. So drag it for smoke. Use it kind of like a brush. So, and you've seen other artists use, of course, like paper towel for the same thing. Jim uses it all the time, tissue or whatever you have. It's just something to play with. So that also gives you, so I have this paper towel. You can use, if you need a little more form to it, wrap it around another roll of paper, like rolled up paper towel or sponge or a ball or whatever, and use it for, again, you have more texture. It's just a lot of stuff for texture. And it is like a little more fine. So if you want to use it for like skin texture or something, you can use that. And then to soften it, just dab it with your finger. So that's more fun texture stuff. Again, more inking tools that you don't have to really buy. And you don't have to worry about ruining it, and you know, especially with art supplies being so expensive, you want to get like a ton of use of whatever money you've spent on it. So yeah, just different texture. So yes, and also the little packing foam. You can find all kinds of stuff around you. Packing foam is great for oh, let me see, I used this quite a bit in the Superman Up in the Sky for a few of like smoke effects. There's a couple of stories where I kind of experimented with it quite a bit. And I'll go back to the black area that I already have. So you can do kind of like a little smoky effect, and you can use it in layers. So inking, you also work in layers, and just kind of different layers than the digital version of layers, but basically still the layers in your head. So you just do, so sometimes I'll do like where the area where I need it to be lightest, that's where I start with where I want, like I'll start where I have fresh white, and then from there you can use your finger and just keep tapping to fade it out. So now it's just like smoke on top of smoke. Just rotate a little just to keep it random, or you can just keep going with your same tool. But they all, you know, if you want more like puff of smoke here, just keep tapping and then soften around it. So you get like layers, a little more dimension in your little explosion or puff of smoke. You make it up. It's comic books. You make up a lot of stuff. So when you can play around with it, see, floats upward, dissipates, da da da. So you can keep playing with it. So that's how you use just whatever random things you find you want to play around with. That's part of the fun, is just experimenting. And let that dry. And guess what? Okay, well, now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and let's see what other next. You've seen me use the spoon, which is the same as like an old credit card. And you use that to, this is where we can do like, we can flick in. I just dipped in a little ink here. Flick in. You can do a little spatter. And there you go. Now in this explosion. You have debris flying everywhere. And I find when you're doing these little mist or splatter thing, you will get finer dots with like thinner ink. If you want thicker, chunkier, maybe have some thicker ink on the side, and you can get like, ooh, I have a messy bottle of ink in my hand and now it's all messy. You can get thicker chunks. So I will attempt this without making too much of a mess. So you can get thicker chunks when your ink is a bit thicker. My ink is still really thin. Or this is my trick with like the credit card or the spoon. Just be careful when you're using the spoon, because you are hovering right over your board or your page that you're working on. And I use, again, we'll go back to my old beat up brush, because now I'm just gonna this is just so I can flick chunkier, because that always gives it a little more like dimension. You have a mix of thick and thin. Anytime you have like a mess or wreck, it's not going to be uniform. So there you go. It is not pretty, but you got to make up a story in your head. There's a little explosion, little debris and pieces flying. There's smoke and there's like other misty stuff going on. So you use that spoon the same way as you would a credit card. And I'm sure you guys have seen artists use a credit card, which same, just a hard edge for you to kind of flick off of. You can load a little ink on there, or you just have your brush like nice and loaded and flick in the direction that you want it to go. Boom. So if you wanted to kind of like give it direction, really throw it, and you get chunkier pieces than you would. So maybe this is more like a liquid that's exploding, or blood, heaven forbid. Okay, so this is going to give you bigger chunks than you would get from like with a toothbrush, which will give you a nice fine mist. So yeah, if you need like a finer mist, then you go in with your, I'll do it on the side so you can see a little bit more. You can see how much finer it is. So if you want like a little softer look, can you see that? You can still make it directional too. So it's going that way, and just rotate your brush and you get different direction. If you want it more down, then you could aim downwards and you'll get more of a concentration that way. So if you want to really blend that in, just do that. And there you go. And if you want it softer, you just tap it. If you want it to look like there's chunks, tap. So there you go. You can play around with that. So more tools that you can use and abuse and beat up, all in the name of playing an art. Let's see, I'll dump that back in. And yeah, so what else do I have? This is just some of the stuff that I use for, you know, like silly effects or stuff to kind of give things a little more depth and dirty hands. You just kind of have to remember that when you're working with ink, not like in pencils, it needs time to dry. So when you're doing layers, if you don't want it to go gray, you have to give it time to dry. Like for right now, if you want to do white, like more white specks or spatter on top of that, I need to give that time to come back. Otherwise, it's just gonna all blend in and it's just gonna be gray mud, which is kind of what I have behind that going on. So these are just some of the fun tools that you can play with. Art supplies are expensive. Don't throw it away. Just play around with them. Maybe this is the, like the old person in me talking, like wastes nothing. Repurpose it. Like, I mean, don't be a hoarder or anything, but entertain the idea of playing around with different things and getting, having fun with it and doing fun effects. I have this set aside because I was going to do like a Black with Stars thing. I'm going to move my camera. Woohoo. Okay. One shot, unscripted, unedited. Okay, so, hey, bonus, let's do Black with Stars. Oh, the other thing that I always have on the side is my little, just old ink bottle of water if I need to thin my ink or my whites, which is usually FW mixed with Pro White that I use. I mix the two, and let's do some stars. So one thing that I know, I don't know how pencilers would do it, but they would just, it's hard to accomplish with pencils, but for the inkers, we just get you've seen this BWS in a large area. So that just means Black with Stars, black it out. I did this earlier, so I would have a dry surface to work on. And I have it's gonna be a little messy because my hands are already covered in ink and white. But so I have my FW and my Pro White mixed. I'm just gonna dip my brush in there. Or if you want, you can use a dropper and just drip some white right on there, whatever you use. It's not like you have to do anything any particular way. So for the Black with Stars, sometimes what I'll do is I will use like the back end of the brush if you want like thicker, bigger stars. Yeah, it's hard to be random because for some reason your brain wants pattern and stuff. But you can do big circles, as in like a fake planet. Just mix it up, keep it interesting. And then this is where you can do like finer mist around. And you can do thicker. So Black with Stars. So it's space, it's not, so try to be a little random. And let's see, what I'll sometimes do just to kind of make it like a little softer look, like a whole bunch of little tiny little stars. Tap, 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 tap. So it looks more like light. You can tap from the big chunks too. So if you want, you can do that. And then tap. You just have to be careful to not streak as you're tapping. I mean, you can do that too. It'll just be like shooting stars. But you can get more, and it's extra, extra spacey. So even if it's like, if your finger, let's see, the little dab on your finger dries a little bit on the edges, absolutely fine, because it gives it like another effect where it looks more distant. Silly fun we play. So like the little bit of softness around each dot just makes it look like it's more distant, and there are just tiny little stars around it. So that's the little fun with Black with Stars, which sometimes I have to confess, yes, I overdo a little bit. I have done that. And if you really, really, really want to be crazy, you can still go in and use a nib. You can pull from that puddle. Dude. and then soften it. So there you go, there's your little bonus black with stars. Play around with it. If you feel like it's too much, you can always, okay, one more trick. So if you've got like, oh shoot, I went too far, I have too many stars. Okay, so here's my other trick. Like you can use, and this is the, let's see, the brush pen that you preload with ink. You can kind of soften it with same technique. Just be careful, make sure you use your ink finger and not your white finger, and keep it separated. And you can kind of backtrack a little. Again, just be careful because you can, you know, turn it into mud really quick. So if it's too much, be kind of random, and then you can just go, okay, and just know when to stop because it can turn into mud really quickly. So there's a little space for you. I'll stop there, or will I? So even if you have a really big spot, I definitely like doing like a finer mist around it, just so it doesn't look like it's just some weird white spot that you left there. And then, like I said, little dun dun dun. Oh no, I have too many. Okay, wait for it to dry. Backtrack. You get the idea. So, yep, there you go. Old crappy tools that aren't so crappy if you just kind of play around with it, give it a purpose. Sometimes you play around and stumble into some really cool stuff. That's kind of part, or a big part of the fun, I think. Again, play with your toys, guys. Have fun. Thanks for stopping by.